What? The Nintendo DS was a revolutionary console that came out in late 2004. It would go on to sell over millions worldwide, and came out with a variety of games at its disposal. Platformers such as Mario 64 DS, RPGs like Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and top-tier titles such as Ben 10, Cosmic Destruction. Of course, everyone remembers that game. But seriously, with the amount of games released means some games are going to be lost to time, and others are meant to be forgotten. And some of them can be found as hidden gems amongst collectors. But one of these games I have today is called Magical Starsign, and it could be one of them. Now, it isn't fully forgotten. I mean, there's a fan base for everything. But when it comes to content on YouTube, there isn't any full reviews for Magical Starsign. Only people who have Let's Played it or mentioned in other videos leading to existence of it. But as for the game, it was developed by the mind at Brownie Brown. But as of 2013, it changed the name to One Up Studios. And they developed such games as Mother 3 and Super Mario 3D Land, or two more recent titles such as Triforce Heroes and Super Mario 3D World. But as for Magical Starsign and its prequel Magical Vacation is mostly forgotten about. But today will be different. I, Dangerboat South, yours truly, will give Magical Starsign what it deserves. A full-on, unbiased review of said game. Going over the complexity of the gameplay, minor things that make me smile inside, and maybe a little propaganda here and there. Alright, without further ado, get your gear together, find your best squad, and strap in, because we're about to blast off! Where to start other than the beginning? You find yourself on a small, quaint planet named Kovomaka in the Baklava solar system, where you and your 5 friends of Magical Misfit partake in the will-o-wisp Academy, where your teacher, Miss Madeline, teaches you about how to be a good mage, and other academic things like spelling or something. However, Madeline is talked by the principal about a new threat that plans to take over the universe with his army of space pirates. Of course, you and the gang overheard the conversation and you want to follow suit. And after a really long, unskippable tutorial level, you stay back with the principal while Madeline departs the nearby planet to stop this furious villain. And after a 3-month time skip, the party is worried about Madeline's disappearance. Lastly, one of your friends decides she wants to go off and find her, and apparently there's like rockets hidden up in the school from like a senior prank. Somehow, after going through a series of doors, there's 6 conveniently placed rockets for you and your 5 friends. How generous of them. Put those rockets on the roof! Lastly, knowing literally nothing about how to operate a highly technical device, holds a random red lever and shoots off past the ozone layer. Well, see you later. Of course, as the good friend you are, you decide to follow Ash to make sure she doesn't get killed. What follows is a long, planet-hopping adventure with your 5 amigos discovering new species, dealing with the worst space agency in the galaxy, and stopping terrifying threats from literally erasing the universe. All for saving the teacher, who is probably the same teacher who gives out candy during your lunch break. Yeah, the story is very simple in premise, but a simple story is usually what you need to get through. And though I wasn't really joking about the whole deleting the universe thing, yeah, don't let this cutesy art style detain you from this game. It gets kinda dark and kinda terrifying. For an E-rated game, people literally die and sacrifice themselves just for another chance for you to save the universe. And that all started just from some weird-looking moles that said, hey, can you help stop this giant ant thing? I don't know what progression is, but it certainly ain't this. Though, what makes this whole story even better is the characters you meet along the way, and they each feel very vital to the story. Since the player character cannot speak, Lassie does a lot to get you through the early game. And although she's very foolish, she's definitely a great asset to the team and even helps out during the end game too. Mocha, a strange-looking robot, does a lot through the story, whether it be literally getting his head back to join the squad, to helping get valuable information, to progress the plot, to moving boulders off of people's cars. He carries the game, honestly. Pico is also a star player, starting off as this renegade who saves people by himself, to becoming a respectable person and helps people like Sorbet get through troubling times. Speaking of, Sorbet is very complicated through Magical Starsign, playing as a false villain to eventually becoming depressed about minor events in the story. It makes her feel so much more real to me. And though she's kind of rude, though. Am I missing anyone? Oh yeah, you. Oh, Chai. Such a cool character design. But man, what do you even do? You get some documents about stolen wizards in the universe and do some magic here and there, but compared to everyone else in the story, you could be written out of everything completely. And there would be like no changes. Except I would never do that. Remember when I said this was unbiased? One exception, Chai's best boy, and that's never going to change. Just look how happy he is. Ignoring the main cast for the minute, the side characters get a lot of personality too. Like the interesting Rojan Josh with his useful abilities, the strange and powerful Phelan Farana, to the very creative Bree Piori. This is what she looks like, Mr. Internet. Go nuts. I go on and on about all the characters that are featured, but this section would last like another hour or so, and I want to keep this as short as possible for you to experience for yourself. Just note, the story isn't that much on the surface, but the characters, rich backstories, and even the deep lore is interesting enough to get through the whole game. It always keeps things on your toes. Now moving on from story to presentation, I'll mention probably the most remembered aspect of the game, the soundtrack. Now this could be part of a bias thing over here, but the soundtrack kinda slaps. There's many themes in the game that just feel so catchy and fit the tones of each scenario and landmark. Shout out to the Bena Rikashi theme on Buffoon, the soft, soothing shores of Cassia, and even the mystical chants of the Jalapeno Wasteland on Raisin. And that's just the overworld themes. The battle themes are even catchier. There's only like 5 different themes you can use in the game, and that includes the final boss theme, but all of them sound great on DS hardware. The Space Police theme, man. It has no right to go this hard, but it just does for some reason. It's easily my favorite theme in the game. Even scrolling through the menu music sounds great. Like, how do they make menu music sound catchy? It's ridiculous. Though, if I have to find a complaint about the music, is that some scenes that have music don't fit the scene that it's presenting. Like in one scene you find Mocha's lying on the ground, presumed dead, and the very same theme is used in a cutscene where you find the group talking about what they want to do next. And they use this theme a lot, especially in characters presumed dead or injured, but they also use it for random scenarios. So it's a sad theme, but not actually. I guess there's not many themes in the game actually, but the music is overall fantastic. Shout out to the composers. Another fantastic aspect is the art style and character designs, having this anime-esque art style with vibrant colors and locations, and it shows with the official art of all the characters, looking so unique and visually appealing. I just love the way the Phelan species on Gren looks so cute, or how freaky these Enigma creatures are. Just most of the designs are unique, and it almost makes you feel like you're traveling to a different planet. Oh, I see! That's the adventure! Enemies and bosses also get this treatment of, oh, they look cool, I remember them. And thankfully you can see them more clearly with the bestiary section of the menu. Sure, some designs aren't perfect, these spiny moles are kinda ugly, and the less we talk about mudflap, the better. And even the salamanders have this strange pancake-shaped head and ugly color to them. But it's immediately forgiven because Chai is perfect and the rest of the salamanders are just too cute as well, and no one can change my mind on them. Look at this art. They wear shoes! So cute! The game runs fine at a consistent speed, however, sometimes the game just stops in the middle of battle. And the sound design can be kinda dodgy at times. But overall, the game looks and sounds excellent, and honestly makes me excited to hear what it sounds like in HD. But we're not gonna get an HD remix, right? God, please, I only asked for one thing. Come on. Please. Oh boy, the gameplay. This is gonna be fun. This part will be divided into 2 sections, one for overall travel and the other for the actual gameplay in battle. So let's start off with the battle portion, the majority of which is mentioned in the tutorial, so I'll explain quickly. You have 7 commands when it's your turn. Melee, magic, use item, run, switch rows, guard, and repeat previous action. Most are self-explanatory, but things like rows need more info. I'll get to that. You have a stat screen displaying your stats on screen, which is HP, MP, MP%, which is the amount of magic points you gain back when it's your turn. Power, which stands for physical attacks only. IQ stands for magic attack power. Defense means for physical attacks from the opposition side. Spirit is spell defense ability, meaning you can defend against magic abilities. And agility is when your speed is higher than the opponent's. Equipment can help with stuff like that. Got it? Because there's more. Magical Starsign has 3 different game battle gimmicks, which includes type effectiveness, an astrology map, and the front and back rows. Type effectiveness is simple to understand like Pokemon. Fire beats wood beats wind beats earth beats water beats fire, and dark and light counter each other. And resistance go counterclockwise. The astrology map gets even more complicated. Every planet in-game is shown at the top of the screen at the start of every match. If the planet is in a specific quadrant, then that said element in the planet associated will be powered up for a short amount of time. This includes the party and the opposition side. Through the beginning of the game, you'll not be affected, but a magic spell you can get throughout the game can be equipped to a party member to visually change the planet's orbit, which means your magic can be powered up and get stronger, and when you get more defensive. This is gone when the planet is out of its affected quadrant. Dark and light are affected by the day and night cycles that appear in both battle and the overworld travel. This can change when you're in the end. Understand? Because we still have 4. The rows are very special. There's a front and a back row. The front row can only use physical attacks, usually made for enemies who can tank magic attacks, and if you use magic, you can only use target of 1 target. However, for back row, you can only use melee attacks, but your magic is an area of effect, meaning it can hit all targets, including physical moves and stat levels of your party. You can have the 4 party members in each respective row, no more, no rest. Whew, that was a lot. But with that knowledge makes it really fun turn-based RPG. Having multiple options in and out of battle makes one of the most thought-provoking RPGs I have ever played. And I haven't even gone into more details like tapping your character, you can either buff up your magic or guard for the last second. In-game status effects like sickness or being blind, to slew of useful items can make underlevel battles seem like a cakewalk or an absolute nightmare. Traveling through the Earth plane and need to face toe-to-toe with these Earth creatures, put lasting at bat and get an edge on the beginning of the match. Got a strong boss weak to fire? Power up that Pico and burn them to ashes. There's even special magic you can get with battle, just like the one that you can change the plans with. There's a volleyball attack that boosts your stats if you step on your characters correctly. That's just funny. But don't sleep on Magical Starsign, because it fights back. When not prepared for the worst, this game can get really difficult at times. Like the mudflap fight, you have to deal with 9 space police troopers beforehand, to the extremely innocuous Pole fight, which does ludicrous damage if not done properly. If you don't have a certain defensive salamander on your team. So hearing about this fun stuff about the battle system, surely the overworld travel is fun. I mean, something's happening. I know it's mostly nitpicking at this point to complain about overworld travel of all things, but I have to say it's the worst aspect of the game, considering what you're doing 50% of the time. Because Magical Starsign was released in 2006 on the Nintendo DS, that means you're going to be using the touchscreen a lot. And by mean a lot, I mean the entire adventure. Yep, face buttons, overrated. D-pad, obsolete. Microphone, thank goodness you don't have to use that. I have no idea why it was a choice to make everything touchscreen related, but it doesn't control well. To be fair, I recorded all the footage using an emulator and nothing but a trackpad, but even on official hardware it feels too loose and too stiff simultaneously. The talk phone, you have to tap on the character on the screen and it will go directly towards them, but it won't immediately speak to you unless they are moving as well. It's very strange. It gets even worse when you're trying to click on something in the overworld. The enemy gets spawned at random, and you're just trying to click on this chest or talk to this dumb bot. This could then easily fix with the face button to do something instead of just walking in directions slowly, which the D-pad is already used for, and save touchscreen for in-game battles only, because it works fine there. Anyways, the rant's over. Continue with the overworld gameplay. It's very simple. You travel to your ship, select the world you want to travel to, there's a village or 2 here or there, you can shop and sleep at it, there's dungeons to go off and explore, there's lots of secrets if you're not rushing the game, etc, etc. The main draw of the overworld gameplay is the overworld magic you use in certain situations. For example, in the overworld you'll see these holes, gummy worlds jump in and out of. If you interact with them at the right time, you get a worm, which restores your magic. But if you don't, you have to face battle, and then you get the worms. However, Sorbets in your party, you can use your water badge to wash the worms up from their holes. you get a second chance snap. Or another example is these healing pots. They can not only heal your HP to full, but if you use Lassie's Wind Gust ability, you can spawn these Sugar Stars, which they can be used for battle to restore your magic points too, but if you talk to this little funny Hat Man Pizza, you get a special warp point in place that you can give the Sugar Star to him. Sure, some abilities are more useful than others, like Pico spawns more Bean Pops which spawn on the ground to get more experience, but they can only be used in certain times when Bean Pops are spawned, and the game doesn't even tell you can use Dark and Light spells, which is overall useless in the game. But hey, the impossible happens. Chai can be useful. He spawns leaves on the ground, which counts as power-ups, so you can power up the characters in the menu. The game doesn't tell you this, but who cares? I can talk about the best boy again. These spells are mostly only used when the game forces a scenario where trouble is imminent. The section with Gren burning and everyone working together to fix the planet is a magical experience. The only other thing to note is when a planet is in its respective quadrant, a special chest can be spawned to find rare items. Is that it? Oh. Okay. So overall, the gameplay is a mixed bag. On the combat side, it's very complex format with endless strategy, but on the overworld side, it's very scarce and bland with very poor control scheme. But if you're going to play it, I recommend getting official hardware. The final thing to mention is the multiplayer, and because the game is left to be forgotten about, I couldn't find any footage online, and I'm not going to get a second copy of the game just for one section. So I'll explain what's footage with enemy designs I really like. So multiplayer is in two categories, Tag Mode and Amigo Dungeon. Tag Mode is a setting where you can turn your game on to said Tag Mode and walk around in public with your Nintendo DS. If you hypothetically find another human being with the exact same settings, you'll find a random egg. This egg can be used in the shelter beneath the ship, and after you meet with more people with the tag functionality, the eggs will turn into egg characters. These eggs aren't like traditional characters, they only have one powerful level 5 special ability to be used in battle of that said element, and they can only be leveled up via more tags, so good luck finding more people with the same settings. The other mode is Amigo Dungeon, which sounds a lot more enjoyable. In this mode, you wirelessly connect 6 other participants, and you can play with some of the main characters you unlock during the course of the campaign. So of course, hypothetically, I'm a Chai main, and no one's going to change that. In this mode, you compete to gain the most points while fighting enemies and collecting treasure. The player with the most points wins, and even the XP can be gained from this mode can be transferred to the main story, so that's kinda neat. I wish I got to play this. You can also use figurines you get and fight them. You go up and talk to Mr. Macadamius over here on the Wind Planet. But that's the only thing I have, so here you go. Hope you enjoyed this brief summary of multiplayer that I found online, and I'm not even sure if it's right. Okay, so the last section will be dedicated to the end game and the post game. So if you want to hear it and play it for yourself, skip ahead and don't be spoiled. But before you go, make sure you save right here, otherwise you'll be soft locked from the post game if you don't. Ready? Okay, good. So the endgame. During the course of the adventure, you eventually find Madeline being captured by the clutches of Master Kale after a bitter defeat. And with your first encounter with the villain, him and his lackey repeatedly go to the depths of Nova, the planet of light. So you're tasked to retrieve the tool to fuel the ship to eventually lead you to the Nova planet, the Millennium Gummies. And after backtracking to all the former planets and receiving each elemental gummy, you head back to Raisin, seeing the whole town under siege by the space police and the pirates. After some pirate fights, police entourages, and prehistoric creatures, sacrifices were made to head to Nova with an unexpected guest. And after arriving to said planet, in the edge of the planet you see a hole that Kale and the pirates led to go to the opposite of the light planet, the dark planet, Shadra. And with a bunch of friends helping you for the endgame, you seek into the Castle of Light, light a few torches, learn history about Kale and the previous endeavors, Mocha Gang sabotage, and a fight with a highly skilled Kung Fu Chicken Man. You enter Shadra, filled to the brim with war and monsters. Seeing all the magicians makes you feel queasy, and the only thing saving you is the remnants of the space police at the last second. One last fight with Master Chard and also the Krogmar Cave to put an end to this whole chaos. And after a deadly fight with a giant larva who feeds on magic energies, you see that you slowly but surely turn into gummies, and your team confronts Kale in enormous gummy monster. You defeat them in a rigorous battle, leading you to Madeline, but Kale's Witch of the Universe ending is still in play. Madeline's seemingly endless gummy sleep. All the machines, including Mocha, start to rampage, but you hear a voice, a soft voice, telling you to wake the sleeping beast, leading to the true final battle against Shadra. And after 2 hard, grueling phases, the world seems pure, the sky filled with a new light and new hope. You wake your team up, only to see it was too late. Madeline's spirit finally rests. Knowing the universe is in good hands, she departs with a very sad message, leaving the whole team speechless. Ree and her father, General Knucklestorm, arrives on the scene. The universe is safe, and the credits roll. And that was a lot. I could have started earlier, but there's a lot of important details I could have left out. And here's a few complaints I have about it. The surprise random final boss is a little sucky, but I still felt a little lifted the first time I saw the ending. And Madeline resting her spirit feels so much more different. But I always enjoy seeing the scene, because it makes you feel like you grew. It's not about saving your teacher, it was about saving the whole world, and sacrifices were made along the way. And even then, after the credits roll, the character get a "Where are they now?" section. Pico failed 8 years of school and left to become a great hero. Sorbet finished her education and joined the space police. Lassie taught herself rocket science and after 10 years built her own rocket. Mocha literally helped out Lassie by using his own body as a base for the rocket. To add to the wholesome run, even the protagonist wants to help with the doors and build more machines, like a telescope and miniature spaceship, causing the whole party to get happy endings. Except Chai! Oh, he got bored with magic and left with Ron and Lassie's ships in the fuel tank. Okay, if this doesn't convince me the writers hate Chai, nothing else will. They couldn't give him anything else? Like, there's a role for a teacher missing. Let him be a teacher and open up more things instead of saying, "Oh, well, you deserve to run the ship, so go die while you're at it." Oh, whatever. There's a post-game to talk about. And let's talk about it real quick. So let's say, hypothetically, around level 58 after facing the final boss, you go down and face very strong enemies at curb stop. You grind it for a bit, you take down the robot and proceed down further. Rinse and repeat for 19 more floors and throw in 3 extremely hard bosses as a bonus. This sucks. I hate this post-game so much. I wasted 20 hours to do it in full, and I did it only once, and I'm not doing it again. No exception. There's some powerful equipment you get for light and dark characters, and you get to the max level, but it's not worth it. The problems include warp points that you don't even have, and you have to travel to the ship to heal up, and you have to go down multiple floors to take up to 5 to 10 minutes. Did I mention it was hard? Like, I don't think this recon of a T-Rex fight should have any Magna, which includes healing support and having 2 unlockable area of effects attacks. And your ward is nothing more than a putty key, which is used for lore. Sure, lore is interesting, but is it really worth the 20-hour escapade? I don't think so. So that's Magical Starsign in full, from its highest highs to the lowest of lows, and overall I still think it's a really solid game. Fun battle system, awesome story, writing, and the characters topped up with fantastic music. Though the overworld can be used to more than I can't stand the post-game, and doing Shadra is almost unforgivable, but I don't want to rank this game for a simple review. Like, I could easily say this game is like an 8 out of 10 and move on with my day. But I want you to value your opinions and share it with me. I can use this as my favorite game, which it is, and move on, but you may hate RPGs and hate the game, which I can understand. You may despise the story and think it needs more works. I get it. And it can even allow you, if you loathe Chai and think it deserves this bad ending. Look, fair, but whoever says that is just not a person worth talking to. Just play it, measure your own opinion, tell me in the comments. I would love to hear it. And finally, what's the future of the game? For Magical Starsign, it's been 15 years since its first release. Is there any hope? Well, there's always a timeline where it got more praise, got more sales, it got sequels and spin-offs. But there's always going to be one person going to be leading the charge of this franchise. And if you want to hear more about the game, I'll be more than willing to talk about it. But as my first order of business to talk about this game, can I legally adopt Shy? He deserves the love, and I feel like I'm the only one who's open to show it. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.